me start by saying that I am not a scholar or a researcher. In fact, you probably guessed, and you heard, I'm a carpenter. And I'm a mom, and I'm a writer. I'm a woman who thinks she can fix anything with duct tape. Am I right? And I'm an entrepreneur. In fact, this is me winning a deal on the TV show Shark Tank back in 2011. I did what everybody does. You know, I went from a very successful corporate marketing job in television to building furniture in my garage without any experience. I know, it's crazy sound. But seriously, back in 2007, I followed my intuition. I trusted my gut feeling, and I taught myself to design and build mid-century modern kids furniture out of our garage. I also convinced two sharks to invest in our company. And since Shark Tank has aired, I've been able to secure funding, and I've been growing Mod Mom Furniture ever since. Now, I could talk all day long about entrepreneurship and all the ups and downs, but that's actually not why I'm here today. During the same time period as Shark Tank, I thought I was losing my mind, literally losing my mind. Now picture this, I'm in the workshop, I'm building furniture, and nails start moving rapidly across the workbench on their own. I start hearing voices of children playing and talking, and nobody was home. And I also started having what I would call visions, or like mini movies playing in my mind of children and people and places that I didn't recognize, and I didn't know how they got there. It was terrifying. Now, naturally, I thought to myself, this has to be all that polyurethane I've been breathing since 2007, right, or something else. But it turns out that what I was experiencing was actually really true and real. I have been seeing things over the past 7 years that science can't explain, and I've been experiencing the same. Now, as these visions started to grow, they became more frequent. They also became more of a pattern for me. I noticed there was a pattern. There were children in these visions, and they were abused sexually. So it's hard not to notice that pattern, right? So I'm noticing that they're all about children who've been sexually abused. Some of them had been murdered more than 40 years ago. Now I had a choice to make. I could sit on this information, I could hide it, and who could blame me? Because nobody wants to be known as the crazy woman with visions, right? Or I could step through the fear, and I could reach out to law enforcement and reach out to grieving parents with this information. And I'm so glad I did, because when I reached out and shared what I was seeing in my visions, it led to breakthroughs in cold cases. It also led to answers for grieving parents. And it helped validate the fact that I wasn't losing my mind. I didn't know how this was happening, but clearly it was real. There was something real about it. Now, after I came to grips with this new part of me, I had a lot of questions. One of those questions was, why me? And why now? This is why me. In 2013, 2 years after those visions started, I started seeing this face in visions that involve sexual abuse. Now this is me at age 6. I came to learn that I too was sexually abused and raped by my smooth-talking, charming uncle multiple times when I was between the ages of 3 and 6. Sorry. Of course, this led to new revelations and more questions. How could I not remember being raped? How does that happen? Now, according to my psychologist and my therapist, they say that this is actually pretty common for childhood sexual abuse survivors, block those memories. But I wanted my own proof. So I surveyed my small circle. Out of 73 survivors that I know, 54 of them said that they too repressed memories of abuse. So now I know that I'm not alone, at least, but how terrifying is it to know that A, my small circle, 73 people were sexual abuse survivors, and 54 of them repressed it. It was validating, and it was, comforting to know that I wasn't alone, but boy, was I not healed either. Now you would think the story would end there, right? Isn't that enough? Visions of children who had been sexually abused, leading to me understanding that I too was a sexual abuse survivor. But there's more. In 2014, I had what I call the perfect storm. I lost a major licensing deal and spokesperson deal. So I basically lost my job. We had some death in the family. All this repressed memory of abuse is starting to come back. And resentment that had built up in our marriage was there. All of this together meant that I was anything but stable. Even though I felt like, as usual, I had everything under control. About 5 months after those memories of abuse surfaced, I imploded my marriage when I fell for a charming, smooth-talking man who turned out to not only be abusive, but a predator in his own right. Do you see the pattern here? In one fell swoop, I went from being this self-assured person, this mom, this woman that put everybody else first, to somebody that I didn't even recognize. Now, about 2 months into the relationship, which seemed perfect at first, soulmate type connection, the verbal and emotional abuse started. It was very subtle, and it was wrapped in praise. So I didn't even recognize it as abuse. Now, little did I know, I was actually being groomed to believe that the abuse that I was enduring was my fault. And I didn't understand at the time that I unconsciously blamed myself for what my uncle did to me when I was little. So now this is the second time in my life where I am taking responsibility for someone else's abusive behavior. And it's the second time in my life where I am being groomed to do what my abuser wanted. And I didn't realize it at all. I truly thought he was a soulmate. And he ended up being a wound mate, and a very narcissistic one. Now, I stayed in this relationship for 3 years. Can you believe that? During that time period, I shamed myself for not being strong enough to get out and stay out. I struggled with the fact that I'd made my bed, so I should just lie in it, right? I became more isolated. I stopped trusting my intuition. I stopped working with detectives and grieving parents when visions came in. And I watched everybody around me become increasingly more fearful for my life as the abuse ramped up. You ready for the good news? I got out. I got out. I'm standing here today talking about it. And when I started speaking out after I got out of the relationship about what I endured, I was threatened and harassed to no end. It led me to court to stand there alone and fight for my safety against a man that I once loved and trusted. Now, thankfully, the judge granted the restraining order, and that part of my life finally ended. Now, here's some more good news. My husband and I, Scott, and my family's here today, we got back together last year, 2017. And we have such a better understanding of the effects of hidden abuse. Scott even credits our separation to making him fully grow up at the age of 44. And while I'm not healed, and I don't know if I'll ever be completely healed, I'm leaps and bounds from where I was in 2014. And I'm just so grateful to be here today. I'm here with my family. I'm growing Mod Mom Furniture. I'm now, again, volunteering my time with grieving parents and detectives when the visions come in. And I'm helping abuse survivors any way that I can. Speaking of those millions of us that are out there, these abuse survivors, I've talked to many. And like me, they unknowingly repeated a pattern of abuse in their life. And I just can't get over the fact that I am so lucky. I'm so fortunate to be here talking about it because many don't get out. And it truly takes more than courage to get out and stay out. It takes a massive deconstruction of everything that you thought you knew in your life. I had to look at all my patterns. I had to look at every choice I made. I had to look at why I felt addicted to the abuse, which was crazy to think that I was addicted to it. I then had to forgive myself. I had to stop shaming myself. And I had to continue to heal that 5-year-old little girl who carried the weight of all that hidden abuse for 35 years. And then I had to put my tool belt back on, and I had to start rebuilding me. Now, during that deconstruction, rebuilding phase of my life, I had to learn to stop living life unconsciously. I don't have all the answers by any means, but I want to leave you with 3 tools that helped me rebuild my life and heal deep wounds that kept me locked in the cycle of abuse. They're actually questions that I ask of myself that I wouldn't have known to ask. Now, the first question is, why do the same types of people and situations keep coming into my life? Clearly, you've heard today, there was a pattern in my life. When I finally got out of the relationship and I started seeing 2 therapists, no joke, I learned something called wounded attachment, which I wish I would have known before. Valerie Rogers is a psychotherapist who describes wounded attachment as the unconscious way of being attracted to or attached to someone or something that reinforces that trauma or abuse. Unbeknownst to me, by standing up to the abuse that I was enduring as an adult, I was healing little Kiersten. I couldn't stand up as a child. The second question, am I a people pleaser? Is that what I really am? How many people pleasers are there? Okay. I never really looked at it myself that way, but that's exactly what I was. I would put everyone else first. I had a lot of trouble setting boundaries, and I wouldn't say no, even though I didn't want to. So when I started to dissect that, I realized, oh my gosh, I was taught this at age 3. I was programmed by my uncle to please others in order to survive and stay safe. I'm happy to say I'm a reformed people pleaser now, and I say no to people, and life is so much easier. And then lastly, this one has helped me tremendously through life, and almost daily. When I was in the abusive relationship, I started to feel symptoms in my body. I was having panic attacks. I was having trouble breathing. These were all signs, and I was totally ignoring them. Absolutely ignoring them. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I can't breathe, but everything's fine. Right? I mean, as intuitive as I am, I'm still ignoring them. One of the strangest things happened when I was in the relationship. I would feel this buzzing sensation on my right hip. And every time he would yell at me or shame me or call me names, that buzzing sensation would come. So I started to notice that there was a pattern there. When I got out of the relationship, it completely went away. So my advice to you, sometimes your heart can't hear these messages, and your head can't hear the messages, but your body can, and don't ignore those signs. Now here's the deal. No matter what you've been through in your life, you have the power to create the life that you want. And you have a roadmap called intuition to help you get there. Just believe in yourself. Own all of your story, all the good and the bad. But maybe cut yourself some slack, just a little bit, because there could be a bigger picture that you can't see right in that moment. And I hope by hearing my story today, you'll walk away inspired to become the carpenter of your own life, and inspired to truly trust your intuition no matter how crazy it seems. And one more thing, you don't physically actually have to wear a tool belt. You already have one. We all do. Just trust it, and trust the tools that you have inside of you to create that life that you want and deserve to live.